Hello and welcome back to Inside the 20. Today, we are going to be going over the Week 14 recap in the NFL. Week 14 already is over, which is kind of crazy, and the regular season is almost over, which means we have to get ready for playoffs. Please make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And yeah, let's get into it. Starting out in Cleveland, okay, Shedeur Sanders, okay, we've seen him a lot, okay, 3 games, he was named the starter for the rest of the year. That's another 4 games we get to see perfect timing, just sling the rock, okay. Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback, and I was watching ESPN, I was watching First Take the other day, and he said that Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback, but he basically said that he's a franchise quarterback not with the Cleveland Browns, which I'm kind of split on, because at the same time, he's looked great this year, okay? For a Cleveland Brown, he's exceeded expectations far beyond anything we've ever seen from a Cleveland Browns quarterback. I don't know if I fully agree with his take that he would be better off not a Cleveland Brown. I think I agree with that, but just Shedeur in general this year has about 800 passing yards in 3 games. He has 5 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Obviously, that Ravens game that did not go too well for him. He's completed 52% of his passes, which is not that good, but for a rookie in his first 3 games, that's not too bad. He's averaging about 200 yards per game, which is great. And his best game against the Titans last week, he went 23 of 42 with 365 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. And he shows a lot of high ceiling, and I think that's why they should have played him earlier in the year. I think he should have been starting over Flacco. I think he should have got that 1 or 2 games that Dylan Gabriel played. I think it's a very smart decision that he's being starter the rest of the season. I don't see any world where that's a dumb idea to play Shedeur Sanders over anyone on that Cleveland Browns roster. He's already producing explosive plays as a young quarterback. We saw this, especially after the breakout game against Tennessee, that Kevin Stefanski took him out and just decided to not play him on that 2-point conversion. He has a lot of dual threat ability, okay? He's a guy like, I see a lot of Jalen Hurts in him, okay? He's going to start using his legs more once he realizes he plays for the Cleveland Browns, okay? And he doesn't have many resources. So the fact that he's going out here and balling out with what he has shows a lot to me. And he has a lot of early production. And personally, if his accuracy can rise, he has the arm talent, and his ceiling is way above all these other guys. I see Shedeur Sanders being a clear franchise quarterback for the Browns come 5 years. Moving on to Indianapolis. This is crazy. Philip Rivers is coming back. Yeah, Philip Rivers, the grandpa, 44 years old, San Diego Chargers legend. This is crazy to a lot of people. Personally, it's not crazy to me. I don't see this as a crazy move, and here's why, okay? He already played a full season with the Colts back in 2020, which I understand was like a decade ago, but he's played there. And he's somewhat familiar with the organization, okay? Playing with a team, even at that level, that far long ago, it's better than not playing with that team at all. And in that 2020 season, Rivers threw for 4,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, completing about 70% of his passes, which is very good. Now, mind you, he was not 44. He also led the Colts to an 11-5 record and a playoff appearance, losing to the Bills as the 7th seed, showing he can still manage a winning team, okay? And mobility isn't a concern for him because his game has never relied on it. We have really never seen Philip Rivers take off, okay? And experience can compensate for declining athleticism, especially when you know ball, okay? Knowing ball is key. Peak. And Rivers is a lot safer, and he's a more reliable option than gambling on an untested rookie in a high-pressure situation. I would rather have Philip Rivers playing for my team than Anthony Richardson. And I think that's a very clear statement. I would rather have 45-year-old Unk over here playing for my team that's fighting for the number 1 seed in the playoffs than Anthony Richardson, who knows nothing and who is not good, okay? I would take my chances on some old dude who is shown in the past that he's very good, over a guy who has not been good, who is focused on rap more than he is football, okay? And in the past, we've seen this with Tom Brady, and look how that turned out. He won a Super Bowl in his first season. But I know it's different, okay? But There are aspects that Philip Rivers is better at than Tom Brady. Example, his running. Okay, Tom Brady can't run for anything, but Philip Rivers can barely run more. It doesn't really matter, but it's worked in the past, okay? In my opinion, I don't see any reason why it doesn't work because, the Colts are looking really good right now, and I don't see any real reason why they don't continue to roll. I get they have Seattle this week, but I still think Philip Rivers slings some good balls. Moving on to Kansas City. The dynasty is over. Kansas City is done. I'm not talking about this year. This season's over. The dynasty is over. The 3 Super Bowls, the 4 appearances, the multiple-time AFC championships, the 10 AFC West championships in a row. It's all done. It's Broncos now. It's Broncos country. Let's ride. The Chiefs are 6-7. They just lost at home to the Texans. They couldn't catch. Rashid Rice dropped the 4th down ball. Travis Kelce dropped the 3rd down ball. Back-to-back plays. They're mathematically eliminated from winning the AFC West. It's literally impossible. And it's a 9-year streak that they've won it. Mahomes has never lost the AFC West. And it makes me really mad, but also really happy that he's losing it now. And they've lost a shocking number of close games. A ton. Think about last year. They won 15 games. 15, put an asterisk next to that. But they should have won 10 at max. With all those doinks and blocks and missed calls and penalties and touchdowns and not touchdowns, all those things, bro. And it's insane. They've not been clutch at all. And a lot of their success has been depth, their roster, their clutch game execution, their luck. And now they're looking thinner than ever. Looking a lot worse, okay? Mahomes is garbage. Travis Kelce, over the offseason, he just, grew a decade. And they lost a lot in the offseason. And it's not looking good at Kansas City at all, which makes you really happy. But some prominent analysts are publicly saying that voices on major sports shows now the Chiefs look like a team headed for a rebuild. What I'm trying to say is people are saying the Chiefs are done. People are saying the Chiefs are cooked because they are. Look at the stats. Look at everything. Look at the games they've played. And I get there's a couple games that, what if this, what if that? But you could say that for every team. Think about my Bengals. Joe Burrow threw 2 picks last game on 2 plays. 2 picks in 2 plays. Blew the game. But you have to look at that and say, what if that didn't happen? What if this didn't happen? All these things. The NFL is caught up. Before this, it was just Kansas City, and they were just rolling through everybody. They could actually win. They could actually play real football. And now the competition's got a lot better. It's showing because they're not the same team they were. They're not being able to win games like they were. And especially, it's harder to now maintain that margin for error. When you drop the ball, it's supposed to be a catch. That's the game changer right there. When you miss that field goal, back then, if you went to 2022, 2023, Kansas City did that, it didn't matter. They were up 10, 14, 17. And they already had the game locked. Even sometimes, when it did matter, they still would come out with the win. Because it was Kansas City, because they knew what they were doing, because they could beat these teams, but now they can't. And it's really bad in Kansas City right now. It's not looking good. Your playoff hopes are gone. Your AFC West hopes are gone. And the division is now owned by Denver and LA. Las Vegas, God bless them, but they're god-awful. And that's just what I have to say personally. I think Kansas City's done. It's going to be a little while till we see them back in the playoffs. All right. Starting something new, a new segment I've come up with, I call Prove Me Wrong. Okay, prove me wrong. So how this is going to work, I'm going to say something, and you guys are going to have to prove me wrong. Personally, it's pretty straightforward. So, this week's Prove Me Wrong is Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins coach, will be fired after this season. A lot of people have him on the lukewarm seat. I think he's on the hot seat, personally. Miami season is over. Like Kansas City, in my opinion, they sit at 6-7 with really no playoff odds. And what brings me to Mike McDaniel being fired is the Dolphins already fired their general manager earlier in the season. And with Miami's past under McDaniels, I see him following suit, okay? We've seen a lot of good rosters that should have been better. But here we are, and the Dolphins suck. And they haven't done anything. And they've been the laughingstock of the AFC East besides the Jets. But nobody focused on the Jets. Who likes the Jets? And this team has battled with a lot of injuries. Injury after injury. We've seen it. And since that 2023 fluke campaign where they dropped 70 on Denver and just couldn't handle the snow in Kansas City in the wild card, they haven't been anything above a 500 team. And I don't know how they're still floating about and getting these wins because they aren't a good team. And Tua's been horrible, consistently in and out of games with injuries. I know he has a lot of head issues, but if you're going to be a quarterback in the NFL, you have to take hits, and you have to know how to do that. And Tyreek Hill has won it out for a while now. We saw it at the end of last season, talking about, I don't want to be here anymore, pretty much. He got injured. He was happy. He was glad he was injured. I could tell. With an aging team full of a bunch of old guys, a horrible front office, and a quarterback who has no idea what he's doing, having a coach who hasn't stepped up to change any of that, going into his fourth season, almost done with his third season, shows me that he's not built for this. Go be an offensive coordinator somewhere. That fits you suit. That's fine with me. I don't see any reason why Mike McDaniel will not be fired after the 2025 season. And prove me wrong. All right. To our other scores, to every other game for Thursday night, starting out in Dallas, the Lions winning on the road 44-30 over the Cowboys. Jahmyr Gibbs rushed for 3 scores as the Lions dominated the Cowboys, winning by 14, giving Detroit a much-needed win as Dallas struggled despite CeeDee Lamb's 121 receiving yards and Dak Prescott throwing for 375 yards. To Seattle, the Seahawks win at 37-9 over the Falcons. Rashid Shaheed returned a kickoff 100 yards for a touchdown as the Seahawks blew out the Falcons. Seattle's offense clicked with Sam Darnold throwing for 250 yards and 3 scores. To Buffalo, the Bengals somehow lose the game 39-34 against the Bills. Josh Allen threw 4 scores, including a rallying effort to lead the Bills to a 5-point win over the Bengals. Christian Benford added a pick 6, while Joe Burrow threw for 284 yards and 4 scores in a high-scoring matchup. Going to Cleveland, the Titans win at 31-29 over the Browns. Tony Pollard ran for 161 yards and 2 scores as the Titans narrowly edged out the Browns 31-29. Shedeur Sanders threw for 365 yards and 3 scores, keeping Cleveland in the game until the final moments. To Minnesota, the Vikings win at 31-0 against the Commanders. The Vikings shut out the horrible Commanders 31-0 with J.J. McCarthy throwing for 163 yards and 3 scores as Minnesota's defense dominated, forcing multiple turnovers and stifling Washington's offense. To East Rutherford, the Dolphins winning on the road 34-10 over the Jets. Tua led the Dolphins to a 34-10 win over the Jets, keeping Miami unbeaten against New York, as backup quarterback Brock Cook struggled, throwing 2 interceptions while Jeff Wilson Jr. ran for 107 yards and a touchdown. To Tampa Bay, somehow the Saints win at 24-20 over the Bucs. Rookie QB Tyler Shock accounted 2 scores to lead the Saints to a 24-20 upset of the Buccaneers, as Drew Neal added a solid running game while Chris Godwin Jr. led Tampa Bay with 55 receiving yards. To Jacksonville, the Jags win at 36-19 over the Colts. T-Law threw for 250 yards and 2 scores as the Jaguars rolled past the Colts 36-19. Jacksonville won its 11th consecutive home game while Daniel Jones left the game with a season-ending injury. To Baltimore, the Steelers win at 27-22 over the Ravens. A-Rod passed for 285 yards and a touchdown to guide the Steelers to a 27-22 win over Baltimore. DK Metcalf caught 7 passes for 148 yards, helping Pittsburgh take sole possession of the division lead. To Denver, the Broncos win at 24-17 over the Raiders. The Broncos extended their win streak to 10 games with a 24-17 win over the Raiders, as Bo Nix threw for 212 yards, while RJ Harvey added a rushing touchdown to secure the dub. To Green Bay, the Packers win at 28-21 over the Bears. The Packers held off the Bears to win by a score, highlighted by Keyshawn Nixon's game-stealing interception as Jordan Love threw for 235 yards and 3 scores. Going to LA, the Rams win at 45-17 over the Cards. Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua led the Rams to a 45-17 blowout over the Cardinals. Stafford threw for 280 yards and 3 scores, while Blake Corum added 128 rushing yards and 2 scores. To Arrowhead, the Texans win at 20-10 over the Chiefs. The Texans stifled Patrick Mahomes and Houston, as Houston won 20-10 over the Chiefs, keeping pace in the AFC South. C.J. Stroud threw for 203 yards and a touchdown, while Woody Marks rushed for 68 yards to support the upset. To Monday night, the Eagles lose to the Chargers 22-19 on the road in overtime. The Chargers narrowly outlasted the Eagles 22-19 in overtime, with Jalen Hurts throwing 4 interceptions and committing 5 turnovers, as Saquon Barkley ran for 122 yards and a score, and A.J. Brown caught 100 yards as Philadelphia fell short. All right, that'll do it for my Week 14 recap. Thank y'all for tuning in. I am your host, Teigan Gray. This has been Inside the 20 with your Week 14 recap. Please make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment. God bless y'all the best. Thank y'all for tuning in. If you made it to the end, you're a real one. Peace.